If you're looking for an easy watercolor look and you don't want it to take any time at all, this technique might be for you. Every technique video is narrated live while I'm doing the technique, so you're getting a real-time view of how the whole process works. Pull out the supplies I'm using and create right along with me, pausing as you need. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. I really love this technique because it can appeal to both seasoned crafters and new crafters. The faux watercolor technique means that you don't need to have watercolor supplies in order to create a really cool watercolor look. So I've got some watercolor cardstock here, and I have a stamp in my MISTI that is just a pattern. It's of a whole bunch of butterflies, and I want to make this look kind of like watercolor. So I've got some inks to choose from, and I'm going to just do like some of the Pinkalicious here. And I'm going to even add in some of the Rubelite to do kind of like an ombre effect. And I've got the whole thing inked up and ready to go. Now, instead of just inking it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it with some water. Not a lot, just enough to loosen up the ink that's on my stamp. And then I'm going to stamp onto my watercolor cardstock. And when it stamps, you'll see how it starts to smush and go into the paper. And it's not going to come across evenly, which is exactly what we're looking for. And I'm just going to hold it for a second so it can soak into the paper a little bit. And when I pick it up, it's going to give us a beautiful watercolor look. Now there is still some watercolor on our stamp here, so we can always do a second impression. We can spray it down even more. You can add maybe just a little more ink if you think you need to. And this is going to give it more of a loose watercolor look. So let's do that. We're going to a little bit more ink on there. We're going to spray it down a little bit more. So now this is really watery. And I'm just going to kiss my paper at this point. I'm going to smush it down and lift it up. And now I have an even more watery look, which is absolutely gorgeous as well. Now, the great thing about this technique is that it's very versatile. You don't need to have a stamp positioner to do it. So in this version, I'm going to be using some blocks, and you can use this with your layering stamps to create amazing new looks. So I've got my outline stamp here, and I'm going to add in some of the I'm going to do the Pinkalicious. This is the medium pink color. And I'm going to try to avoid the leaves as much as possible. All right, so there we go. And then I'm going to add some of the green onto the leaves. All right, so you can see here I've got pink on my flower and green on the leaves. And I'm going to take my spritzer again. I'm going to spray it just once to get this all nice and activated. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp it. So I've got a beautiful watercolor outline. This is a great look already. I don't have to do anything else to this if I don't want to. It's absolutely stunning. But if I want to add the layers to it, I certainly can. So the key to doing layering stamps is to omit some of the larger layers that aren't really necessary for watercoloring. So you could do this layer in a very light color if you wanted to, or you can skip it altogether. So I have the second layer here. It's this one, and that's going to go right on my flower like so. And the great thing is I don't have to be super precise because it's watercolor. So it's going to move around a little bit and it doesn't have to look perfect. All right, so I've added some of the Pinkalicious. I'm going to add some of the Rubelite just around the edges to give it a little bit of a darker edge. And again, I'm going to spray it just to get that moving. So you can see the ink is moving there. I'll go ahead and flip this over and line it up and kiss it down onto the paper. And the longer I hold it, the more the ink will go into the paper. But as soon as I lift it up, I've got a watercolor effect. All right, so then I can do the same thing with my leaves, but of course I will do those in shades of green. A little spritz. And just a stamp and a kiss. And the same thing on the other side. Spritz. Line it up there and just stamp it gently and lift. So there it is, a beautiful faux watercolor technique that takes nothing more than the ink and stamps you already have. I hope you enjoyed this technique and you add it into your toolbox sometime soon. When you give it a try, share it out on Instagram and tag me at Nicole Creates. I always love to see what your creative mind is thinking. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. And until next time, happy crafting.